Hey line walkers, this is Jaime A. Heidel, the Articulate Autistic, and I have a brand new video for you today. This one is called Why Autistic People Do That, video 36. Autistic behaviors look suspicious to police, and that is dangerous. So I'm going to be speaking specifically about autistic people today and not necessarily other people in the neurodiverse community because I can't really speak to that. I don't have ADHD, at least not that I know of. And there's other neurodiversities, but I just want to kind of focus on autistic neurodiversity and the police force and other people in positions of authority and power, but mostly law enforcement. It's kind of hard to explain because thankfully, other than a traffic ticket here and there, I have not had to have any dealings with law enforcement, which is good for me because while I certainly don't have anything to hide, I know that one of my biggest fears before I was diagnosed was that I was going to get into some kind of, not altercation, but some kind of communication with a police officer and they were going to suspect me of something. I really had no basis for this fear. Nothing like that had ever happened to me. But at the same time, I had wondered if I was looking away or if I did something that seemed strange or suspicious to the police officer, that it would be a problem. And I often was afraid that if I was ever a witness to some sort of crime and put on the witness stand, that I wouldn't be able to even talk about what happened. I wouldn't even be able to, because I don't respond well to people questioning me at all. I never have. I mean, even asking me a simple question can cause me to be very anxious. So anyway, I want to talk about some autistic behaviors that can look suspicious to law enforcement officers. One of those behaviors is lack of eye contact. So let's say you're a police officer, you pull somebody over because they were speeding, and they were legitimately speeding. You had a legitimate reason to stop them. But when you get to the car, the person is shifting their gaze around and not meeting your eyes, and they're doing like this. I mean, in neurotypical communication, a lack of eye contact could indicate that there's something to hide, or you're looking around to see if you put away your drugs, or something like that. And I can understand completely how a neurotypical police officer would think that that's the case. But with a neurodiverse person, an autistic person specifically, lack of eye contact is just because eye contact makes the autistic person uncomfortable. And also, and there's another layer to this, if the autistic person has post-traumatic stress from being abused, yelled at, screamed at, hit by authority figures in their lives, they may have an innate fear of police officers even though they have nothing to hide. So the fear coupled with the discomfort in the lack of eye contact, with the lack of eye contact, can cause a police officer to think that this person's hiding something instead of just really nervous because they're being pulled over and that wasn't what they expected. And the sirens probably were loud and distracting, and there's a lot going on sensorily for the autistic person. So it may seem like suspicious behavior, but it's not. Another one is tone of voice and volume. I actually just posted this on my Facebook page, The Articulate Autistic. If you have not seen that, go check that out. I recently posted about facial expressions and tone of voice in autistic people and how facial expressions do not come naturally to most autistic people. We have to make them appear on our face. Whereas neurotypical people, they feel an emotion and the corresponding facial expression just comes up. For us, that's not the case. We have to actually animate our face like I'm doing right now. And the same goes for tone, vocal tone. So if you pull somebody over, you're a police officer, you pull somebody over, not only are their eyes shifting around, so you think, okay, this person has something to hide, you're also getting the person's talking loud or talking in a monotone or talking in just some way that it doesn't sit right with you. The words are exactly what the autistic person is trying to convey. But unfortunately, because there is so much neurotypical focus on tone of voice and facial expressions and body language, that can get lost. And the person who has been pulled over might sound like they're being argumentative or that they're being disrespectful or something to that effect, or maybe also looks like there's something to hide. And that can cause friction, which can lead to an altercation, which can lead to the person being arrested and having no idea what happened. And that's in the best case scenario, because in the worst case scenario, the person may get killed. And that's why I'm making this video. So we've got, let's see, we've covered facial expressions, eyes, tone of voice. I think another issue could be stimming. Definitely stimming are the self-stimulatory behaviors that autistic people will often do. Like, I'm a flapper. I don't flap much around people, but if I see something really cute, I'll flap like this. And it's usually an excited, happy flap. Also, if I taste something gross, I'll flap too, but only with one hand. So if someone is stimming, like let's say their stim is to like touch their leg or their body, you can't see me doing that, but I'm doing it. Like their lower body to like squeeze their clothing or like squeeze their leg or something like that, that can be taken as a person's reaching for a gun or a person's reaching for some evidence that they're trying to get rid of. And this could be just a person kind of trying to calm themselves down. There could be like rocking behavior. There could be clicking. There could be, you know, noises that this person's making that doesn't make sense. And you may mistakenly believe that they're on drugs or that they're about to reach for something and you're in danger. So again, I'm understanding the neurotypical view of this, but I'm also saying it's really, really important to understand that someone who is autistic is already quite, if not frightened, then very startled by being pulled over. So usually when we get upset and we get startled and we get anxious, that's when our self-stimulatory behaviors or stimming happens more often. And it's also when we have more difficulty masking, which is to basically put up a neurotypical front, like make the facial expressions and make our tone of voice a certain way, and maybe suppress our stimming. When we're upset or nervous, we can't do that. So that could be another thing that you may misinterpret as you're in danger, this person's reaching for something, when that's really not happening. I can't think of any major ones off of the top of my head right this second, but I do know that there's got to be some sort of conversation or something that can be done where the autistic person can somehow relay that they are autistic, or if there's some sort of something. I mean, I don't want to say like a sticker because that's kind of horrible. I don't believe people should put labels on themselves. But if there's some way to indicate that someone is autistic and needs to be spoken to in a different way or treated in a different way because their suspicious behaviors are really just behaviors, that would be really helpful. And I can't come up with a solution, but I can at least address the problem in that it can be very, very dangerous. And you hear about it on the news where an autistic person is having a meltdown or something's happening or they're leaving a store. That's another thing too. Actually, let me bring this up real quick. Social expectations, memory problems, a lot of that can come into play too. So if someone is like, let's say at a store and they grab something and they're just sort of playing with it, it's possible they could walk out of the store with it. Now, it's not on purpose. They might not even be thinking. And they may turn around and be like, oh, I didn't mean to take this. But if they're viewed as stealing, and then the police are called, and suddenly the police are there, this person's behavior is going to change drastically, and it may seem as though they're trying to hide something, but they're really not. They're just really scared and confused and don't know why. The police are suddenly surrounding them because they were squishing something or playing with something, and they took it from the store without realizing it. Lack of understanding of social expectations can be another thing, too, that can be a problem. So I guess what I'm doing is I'm putting this out to the world. What do you think would be a good solution? Maybe something universal, maybe something just here in America, that police officers, there could be some sort of training, but something would instantly alert a police officer, that they're dealing with an autistic person, that they're talking to an autistic person. So this person, if their behavior is unusual or they think it's unusual and they're interpreting it that way, that the autistic person doesn't get themselves arrested, beat up, or murdered. So if you have any ideas, please let me know. I am posting this on my Facebook page and also posting it on YouTube. Share, ask your friends and family in law enforcement if there's anything that they can think of. Ask your autistic friends, your neurodiverse friends, your neurotypical friends, everybody. What is the solution? Because there has to be one, and it has to be something that can be instantly recognized, because in certain situations you need that instantaneous recognition because the situation is an emergency. So let me know what you think, please, down in the comments, and that's all for this video. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.